Mexico are out of the Copa America. Now, if you've been paying any attention to this team, it probably wasn't a surprise. I'm not going to lie, I honestly haven't been that much, but I try to keep up with them as much as I can, okay? But it is tricky because whatever. I don't know. It just is. But whenever they play, they always seem to let us down. And if anyone knows anything about Mexico, is that it's that we love soccer. We are obsessed. We love it. It is everything. It is everything to us. And so now we're in a position where the national team is absolute dog shit. Like, let's be for real. And I think the problem is, and I think I've spoken about it before, but the problem is clearly the fault of like the federation. Not only the federation, but the league itself. Like, these guys that play in Liga MX, which is the Mexican National League, they get comfortable. So they do like a decent job of playing games, of playing for the team, creating the talent within. But Liga MX, because it generates so much money, they're able to pay these players. And I've known about this for like 10 years, and it's just been a slow build to where now it's a disaster, okay? But they pay these players these just insane amount of money, right? And then it keeps these players from going out to Europe because they're not going to make as much money. So they're like, well, I'm not going to be as comfortable. I'm not going to make as much money. I won't know the language. Why don't I just stay here, right? And the teams make it really, really hard for players to leave, even if they were to want to, right? They're asking for like 10, 20, whatever, 15 mil for these players that, let's face it, the reputation of the Mexican player is tarnished, right? It's tatters. It's looked at like, I don't know if he's going to work out, And so they're asking for these insane valuations. So sometimes they get them. If they get them, the odd player will leave. And then when they leave, again, because they're not making all this money, because they're not like, viewed in such high regard, because they're not as comfortable, they end up they don't try as much. They get kind of depressed. They're not performing. They don't try as much. Then they end up coming back to Mexico. Okay? And even when they come back to Mexico, it feels like they're kind of washed. Like, they don't play as well. They don't play as much. Like, it just seems like they're just not that good. Like, Lainez, like, who was the defender that left for America too? Like, there's all these players that go out, they come back, and they're just not the same. And so they're these gigantic talents that you think, like, oh, these guys are going to make it. And then they don't. And then they come back, and they're not that good. And then Liga MX, again, because they make so much money too, they're like, well, this foreigner that's, relatively expensive, bring him in here too, and just have him play. And so it's like this weird system of we're creating divas and generating talents for the rest of South America. And Liga MX and Mexico has been doing this for a while. Like I said, I mean, me and my cousin would talk about it 10 years ago. I mean, and he's the one that put me onto. He was like, dude, these guys make way too much money. Like, that's why they don't go out. That's why Oribe Peralta never left. That's so many players, right? But that was like when I first was like, oh, for real? Like, that's crazy. And so, again, we're just deteriorating the Mexican talent pool, making the other South American nations developing their talent, right? For profit, obviously. And then we wonder why Mexico can't beat Ecuador. And we wonder why the Copa America has been an absolute failure. And we wonder why this team's talent pool honestly looks really, really bad. Especially when, say what you will about the U.S., at least their talent pool leagues ahead, right? Leagues ahead. And so, and now too, every time they play each other, U.S. just, I mean, it used to be Mexico dominance, then it was a little back and forth, and now it's completely U.S. And so, honestly, it's depressing to see. Obviously, Mexico does have some players, some really good players in Europe, not nearly enough, and the federation, they just make too much money. The federation, the league, it just generates so much money that it's just not profitable to think about developing the Mexican talent pool. And I think it's a shame, and that's what it seems like to me. Anybody else, feel free to let me know what you think, but that's what it seems like to me. And we're so quick to like just, I mean, every country does it, but the Mexican media just dogs these guys and calls them this, that, the third. They can't hold on to a coach, as if they think that the coach is the one that's responsible for the talent pool, that's responsible for, what they think that with the talent pool that they have, they're going to win the World Cup or what. Like, it's just, they don't face reality. We don't face reality. And it's just going to be the same shit. And it's just going to keep getting worse and worse until pretty soon. I mean, it's just going to be really, really bad. And it's a shame, again, because they have some good players. And the amount of passion that Mexico has for soccer, they really, really need to be looking at reinvesting, but it's just too profitable. So nothing's going to change. So I look forward to Jaime Lozano being fired, somebody else being appointed. It's going to be dumb. It's going to be a mistake. It's going to be whoever the heck it is. And it's just going to be the same thing, because the problem, much like a lot of FAs, it's just systemic. It's just they make too much money. They really do. They make too much money, and it's really difficult to generate to where you're ignoring that talent pool. I mean, Mexico, it seems to me like they act like they have the talent of like Spain or Netherlands or something like that, and they just don't. They really just don't. So it's a shame. I grew up watching the Mexico national team. They were so good. They were so fun. They were amazing talents, and it's just fallen off bad. It really has.